is Easter. Welcome to the Easter Basket, and today we're going to be looking at our hunchbacked buddy here. Is a new killer. His name is The Blight, and we're going to take a look at his perks, take a look at his kit, see if he's fun, see if we should play him. So let's get after it. Alright, so his abilities, his perks. First one, I'll let you know off the front that his perks seem to be very good. So if these make it out unchanged, I will be very, very happy, because this will be the first time that we get a killer with new and sort of innovative perks in a very long time. So Dragon's Grip, after kicking a generator for the next 30 seconds, the first survivor that interacts with it will scream, revealing their location for 4 seconds, and becoming afflicted with the exposed status effect for 60 seconds. Dragon's Grip has a cooldown of 120 seconds. So this has kind of an overcharge, like Doctor's perk. Has kind of an overcharge effect. If you see me kick the gen, I have some gameplay after this I'm going to show you of the killer himself. It has a sort of Pop Goes the Weasel aspect to it. At least currently it has the same graphic as Overcharge and Pop Goes the Weasel. So if you try to touch the gen by mistake after this perk goes up, then you'll scream, you'll reveal yourself for 4 seconds, and you will be insta-downable for 60 seconds. So this is an extremely good perk. If I'm running Nurse, a lot of times, Nurse is a smaller example. If I'm running a killer like Hag, who fights for a 3-gen, if I have Pop Goes the Weasel and this, it is going to be enormously difficult for a survivor to do anything, because sort of the whole dichotomy against Hag is that you basically start 3 people get on all 3 of her 3 gens, and then you take a hit, run away, heal, run back. This makes it very difficult to do that, because if she pops this on a gen and you try to do that in gen, then she can just insta-down you. If she throws you up during the 3-gen, and it's pretty much game over. So I can see it being useful in a wide variety of killers. The easier the killer can get to somebody when they're revealed by this, the better this perk is going to be on them. Second one is Hex Blood Favor. A hex that gains the entity's favor when blood is spilled. When a survivor is hit, pallets within 16 meters of your location are held in place by the entity for 15 seconds. These pallets cannot be pulled down. Hex Blood Favor has a cooldown of 60 seconds. So this is something that'll turn out to be either amazing or terrible depending on situation. If you have survivors that are constantly spread out, this isn't going to do much good, because when you hit a survivor, they're going to run outside of that 16-meter range, and the time that it takes for you to catch up with them, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. However, if there are 2 survivors in a range, say if there are 2 survivors at a jungle gym when they're doing a generator, if you hit that first one and the second one is trying to loop you around the pallet, they pretty much have to rely on windows, because they physically cannot drop the pallet for this 15-second interval, essentially giving you a free hit if they try to loop you around it. So this is the more mediocre of the 3. Dragon's Grip and our last perk, Hex Undying, are very, very good. Now, why is Hex Undying good? It's because of this middle statement right here. So the entire perk is a hex which maintains the vile powers that flow throughout the trial. While Hex Undying is active, survivors within 2 meters of any totem have their aura revealed for 4 seconds. When another hex totem is cleansed, that hex transfers to an available dull totem, losing any tokens in the process. So 2 things come to mind immediately when I look at this. One, Ruin. If they attempt to cleanse your Ruin, this is up. A Ruin simply moves to another totem. Second thing that pops up, if Haunted Ground is cleansed, does it simply move Haunted Ground to another dull totem, giving you more activations of Haunted Ground? Because that could be useful. That's something that could be tested. But the real reason this perk is good is because it makes it very hard, if you run Devour Hope, if you run Ruin, to cleanse a totem against a killer who has high mobility. Because as soon as you're within that 2-meter range, you're going to pop up. And then especially if you start to cleanse the totem, the killer is already going to be beelining towards you, and it's going to be very, very difficult to cleanse a totem if the killer does not want it cleansed. So that should be interesting. That is why this perk is very good. So these 3 perks represent something really awesome. They haven't had a killer come out in a very, very long time with such overtly strong perks. So I'm very much so looking forward to this. So his power is best seen in action. I'll give a quick summary. Basically, he has 6 rush charges, sort of like Bubba's chainsaw charges. And when he right clicks, he dashes forward at about Legion speed. Okay? Maybe a little bit faster. And he can go about 20 meters. If he reaches the end of that 20-meter dash, then he'll fatigue for a very short duration. He'll stab himself with his Blight Serum. And then he'll have a short fatigue like Nurse does. Except he can see. His vision isn't limited. Now, what he can do is if he bumps into a wall or into an obstacle, then he'll bonk off of it. He'll be able to reorient before he fatigues, and then he can start dashing another 20 meters. So functionally what this does is, and you can see this in my video, is the survivor sent me to Red Forest. And in Red Forest, I can cover about half of the entire distance of Red Forest in about 8 or 9 seconds of charging if I time my bonks properly. And this is somebody who has maybe 30 seconds of experience on this killer. I've played 2 games, right? And that's it is an immensely satisfying thing to do, even though his turn radius is non-existent. What he'll do is he'll run and he'll face a direction, but he won't actually turn all that much. It's very disorienting, and you can see this in the gameplay. So I'm gonna stop talking right now, and then we'll pull up the gameplay. You guys can take a look at that, and then after that we'll talk about the survivor perks, the new survivor perks, and that'll be all for this video. Alright, so they sent us to Red Forest. We're going to take a look at our new killer's abilities here. So if we M2, we rush, we bump, and then we have a short delay where we can rush again. But it doesn't seem like we can tap. We can turn very well while we're rushing. So he does seem like a very short killer as well. He's about hag height, so I could see that being somewhat advantageous. We'll see if we can find a survivor and see what they look like. The new gens look fantastic, by the way. They look so, so good. But we'll see if we can find them. And it does not break pallets. Interesting. And he has a fatigue duration almost like Nurse does. So it's like a dash and then a hit. His turn radius is very, very tight though. It reminds me kind of like Pyramid Head, except only it's not really jerky, it's just very tight. That's very, very jerky. Hopefully he has some add-ons that help deal with that, because it's pretty difficult to manage as it is. But you do have a lot of charges, so you can make corrections. This guy seems like he's going to be very, very hard to get used to. Let's see what his break animation looks like. Pretty... Ooh, okay. New break animation. New lockers look pretty good as well. Let's kick this. Does Dragon Claw have an animation? Yes, it does. Okay, so it looks almost like Pop. Interesting. Okay, it seems like it's going to be very painful to try to dash through a pallet, because if they stub you like that... So you do have somewhat of a control, so when you... We'll hook her, just to hook her. So it seems like the bump gives you some method of control of where you're going. So when you bump, you have like a little pause, and then you can turn, face a direction, and charge again. And the charge does seem like it's a good duration. You just kind of pinball around everything. It's interesting. Palettes look really good too. All the new graphics look so good. Anyways, we'll stop the video here. I'm just gonna kind of play this out, mess around with the survivors a little bit more. I might load this just so you guys can keep an eye on what the bounces look like, how people might play with this and make it a little bit interesting. But it seems like his bonks are a little difficult to deal with. He travels very quickly. So it'll be interesting to see if his bonks are, if it's more worthwhile to traverse the map versus trying to down a survivor with his bonks. Playing him kind of like an M1 killer. Oh, completed gens look so good. They look so good. Holy moly. Yeah, so while you're running, it seems like you can face a different direction, but you can't really... seems like you can face a different direction, but you can't really move in a different direction. Your turning is extremely limited. So I'd be interested to see if there's an add-on that gives them kind of the Oni treatment. Unfortunately, I do not have any Mori, so I can't show you guys the Mori animation, which is a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'm not going to be able to make it to a hook. That's fine. All right. Let's pick him up. I'd be really interested to see. Let me see how far I can run if I just sprint and kind of try to intelligently bonk off things. Wow, so I can cover half of Red Forest. That is pretty crazy. I can go all the way around the temple. And my charge come back so fast. Charges come back so fast. All right. So let's sprint. And then we bonk, and then we sprint. And then we'll hit him because he jumped out in front of us. Let's see how fast he injects himself. How fast do they come back? Okay, so the power has a separate duration, and then he gets his things back. Interesting. So if I start from here, I can get to about this tree. No, I can't. Okay. Can't quite get there. So if I start from here, I bounce off this tree, and I go, bounce off the corner, go. Bounce off of this tree, go, oh. Unfortunately, I'm very terrible at pinball. He gets a huge amount of deviousness points. I'm really enjoying that. Anyways, that is our first look at the plague, guys. Alright, here we are with the survivor perks. The first one, new survivor's name is Felix Richter. Hopefully I'm saying that right. My German pronunciation is extremely rusty. First perk is Visionary. You're remarkably focused on your means of escape. You see generators' auras within 32 meters, and anytime a generator is completed, Visionary has a cooldown of 20 seconds, which means you just can't see generators for that period. So I can see this being useful for a new survivor who hasn't played on maps long enough to know where generators can be. This could be a very useful perk for preventing your team from getting 3-gen'd, for just knowing where things are so you can be relatively efficient even if you're not very familiar with the map. So this is a reasonable perk, but mostly focused on new people. Next one is Desperate Measures. You refuse to fail even during your darkest hour. For each injured, hooked, or dying survivor, increase the speed of your healing and unhook actions by 10%. So this is very situational, because if you're against an insta-down killer, this might not be very useful. However, the key thing that I think makes this interesting is unhook actions. So being able to unhook somebody 40% faster, because it also includes yourself if you're injured, is extremely, extremely useful. So if somebody is, say, proxy camping the hook and you can run up and you can unhook extremely quickly with BT, that is enormously useful. So if you have a more altruistic central build, you want to run an unhook build, you want to make sure your people get off hooks and get out alive, then maybe this is something that you would be interested in running. It's a very interesting perk. And the last one I think is either the most ridiculous or the most useless. I haven't really come to a conclusion about this one yet. It's called Built to Last. You know how to get the most out of yours tools. There's a spelling error there. Once per trial, a depleted item will refill 30% of its charges after 10 seconds. So if you make a ridiculous medkit, if you take a purple medkit that has some ridiculous number of charges, 32 charges, and you put gel dressings and bandages on it, and then you deplete it, then you can get 30% of that medkit back. You can get nearly 2 full heals, if I'm remembering correctly, out of that medkit if you have this perk. So is this more useful than botany knowledge? I'm not sure, because botany knowledge also increases healing speed. So it's difficult. It would be your call to make whether you would want more charges overall, or if you would want the higher healing speed. But this is a very interesting perk. I would be really interested to see if this got any use. But that's the survivor perk. So with that, that's our look at the Blight. We'll see if any changes. I'll update if any changes are made to his perks when he is officially released. And the survivor perks as well. I'm really looking forward to Dragon Skull. I'm looking forward to see how killers take that and use it, or if they take that and use it. I know I'll be giving it a shot on Nurse. And that's it for us. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something.